understand when I was in Switzerland. So I ended up, again, going on this big journey all over the world, from a crazy mixture of places like an Amish village in Indiana, because the Amish have low levels of depression, to a lab in Baltimore where they're giving people psychedelics, to a city in Brazil that banned advertising to see if that would make them feel better.
Did it?
Which bit? Banning advertising?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's not been properly scientifically studied, but there is a science that tells us it should. I can explain what that is. So there's this... Everyone knows that junk food has taken over our diets and made us physically sick, right? But there's this really interesting evidence that a kind of junk values have taken over our minds and made us mentally sick. So for thousands of years, philosophers have said, if you think life is about money and status and how you look to other people in a kind of showing off way, you're going to feel like shit, right? That's not an exact quote from Confucius, but that is the gist of what he said, right? But weirdly, nobody had ever scientifically investigated this until an incredible guy I got to know called Professor Tim Kasser, who's at Knox College in Illinois. And Professor Kasser made some really important breakthroughs in this. So there's two ways. Everyone listening to your show has two kinds of motivation in their life, right? We're all a mixture of both. So imagine if you play the piano in the morning because you love playing the piano, it gives you joy, right? That would be what's called an intrinsic reason to play the piano, right? You're not doing it to get anything out of it. That's the thing you love, right? It sounds like jiu-jitsu was like that for you. Writing is like that for me. Everyone will have something in their life that just gives them joy as they do it, right? Okay, now imagine you played the piano, not because you love it, but because your parents are massively pressuring you. It's their dream for you. Or in a dive bar that you can't stand to pay the rent, or to impress a woman, right? That would be what's called an extrinsic reason to play the piano, right? You're not doing it because that thing gives you joy. You're doing it to get something further down the line, right? Now, obviously, we're all a mixture of both. But Professor Kasser showed a couple of really interesting things. Firstly, the more you are driven by extrinsic values, the more your intrinsic values are starved, the more likely you are to become depressed and anxious by quite a significant amount. He also showed, as a culture, as a society, we have become much more driven by these junk values, right? We've become much more driven by, think about how Instagram makes you feel, right? We've become much more driven by this hollow external sense of, think about something as simple as, a little while ago, I was at Elton John's last night in Caesar's Palace, right? Amazing thing to be at. And about half the fucking room is filming it isn't even looking at Elton John. They're just watching it through their phone. Now, that's a small example, but you can see what they're doing. In order to display their life, to invite envy from other people, they are not living their life. No one wants to watch your shitty video of Elton John. There's thousands of videos about Elton John that are much better than yours, right? Why are you doing that? You're never going to watch it either. You're doing it to say to other people, envy me, right? It doesn't make you feel good in that room. Actually makes you feel worse. You're not enjoying the experience, and it makes them feel like shit because you're trying to invite envy in your friends. That's a small example of a much wider thing, of a kind of junk values that have taken our minds. So the reason that relates to what you're asking about Brazil is Professor Kasser has shown there's two sets of solutions to these junk values taking over our minds. One is, it's like fucking air pollution. Get the messaging out of your head. More 18-month-old children know what the McDonald's M means than know their own surname, their own last name, right? From the moment, Professor Kasser put it to me, from the moment we're born, we're immersed in a machine that is designed to get us to neglect what is important about life, right? None of your listeners will lie on their deathbeds and think about all the shit they bought and all the likes they got on Instagram. They'll think about moments of meaning and connection. That's like a banal, obvious thing. But we're constantly pushed to not think in those terms, to think about show it off, buy, spend, right?